We literally got a 1-day break from star injuries in the NBA this week. This is crazy. This week has been absolutely, well, terrible, actually, is the right word. It's nuts. DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant, now Tyrese Haliburton. Who the hell is upright anymore? We don't know what the timeline is on Haliburton, so we can still kind of cross our fingers. But if you're looking at just fantasy stars, really, I don't know where you put the cutoff for that, like top 30 type players. Inside the top 30, just don't even look. Don't even look. It's rough out there right now. Obviously, Anthony Davis, the latest was better news for him, but you're still looking at probably another 2 weeks out. Kevin Durant is out for a month. We don't know what the deal is with Haliburton, DeMar. Porzingis missed a ball game, which is crazy this year because I know Miles Turner late scratch. Paul George has been out. Cat still no real updates. Booker no real updates. Hero's been out. Beal's been out. Capella's been out. Trae Young missed a game with illness. Zion's not in that range, at least not in category leagues, but he's out for a while. DeAndre Ayton. On and on and on right now. The streamer board was down to like 6 or 7 names a week ago. And now it's at like 20 again. And we're going to get into all of those. And it's actually going to be the first thing we talk about today before we even get into the box scores from yesterday. First of all, hi, everybody. I'm Dan Vespers. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan Vespers, DanBesbris. And if you want to follow the best fantasy news feed on earth, it's at Ethos Fantasy BK. Ethos Fantasy BK on Twitter. Follow it. I keep making these pleas to all of you on the show that you need to be on Twitter. I know it's rough out there, but if you continue to use TweetDeck, where it filters out all the non-followed crap, that's how you can really make the most of it and you get your news quickly and then come back to us here on the podcast to kind of bring it all together, to color in the drawing here on the podcast. But again, I want to start the show by just getting straight into the injury stuff. Not so much necessarily exclusively what happened yesterday, but all of it right now. Because I think the question that everybody has is, if suddenly all of these guys are available, what direction do I go? And there's a few ways that we need to kind of think this thing through. First is, what's the upside of the players you'd be picking up? And if you're just looking at the most recent injuries, and that's, by the way, that's wiping out like the fact that Clint Capella's been out for a while and Onyeka Okongwu's been terrific during that stretch. If you're just Kyle Anderson, late scratch, but he's been awesome lately. If you're only looking at the injuries that just happened within the last like 4 or 5 days, you're talking Marcus Smart, which I'm bringing up because the replacement stuff going on in Boston, those guys are actually putting up pretty good numbers. You're talking all of the Pistons front court players, because Nerlens Noel went defensive stat nutso, and my heart could barely take the joy. You're talking the fact that the entire Phoenix Suns roster is out right now, and I did warn all of you that a back-to-back in altitude in Denver off their win in Golden State was a perfect time for all of them to just lay a fat egg. You're talking the Wizards front court being out. You're talking Kevin Durant, and now you're talking Tyrese Haliburton. So it's like 6 pretty large injury-related things going on over the last roughly week. And the question that keeps coming at me is, what order do I pick these guys up in? And unfortunately, there's no simple answer to this question because we're now more than halfway through the NBA regular season, and everybody's fantasy teams are a little bit different. Meaning, if your team, especially with the more recent ones, like, talking about Okongwu, every team can use what Okongwu is doing these days. But I don't know that every team can use what Derek White, for instance, might be doing filling in for Marcus Smart. Or frankly, even what Malcolm Brogdon does filling in for Marcus Smart. There's a threshold And it's like top 50, where it doesn't matter what your team is. You want that pickup. And that's basically, to this point, only Okongwu has been that good as a replacement player. There have been some really nice lines from Slow Mo, but that's more like in the 75 to 100 range. And there have been, the last two games from Nerlens Noel have been really good. But that's, again, like, you're not going to get 7 defensive stats every ball game. That's more in that 75 to 100 range. Maybe a tiny bit better, depending on, and again, we don't really know the timeline of like Jalen Duren, although it sounds like Isaiah Stewart's going to miss a couple of ball games. Adding in some of the more recent names that we'll cover again as we go through yesterday's box scores, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard are the two key names that popped up from the Tyrese Haliburton situation. Royce O'Neal and TJ Warren, yes, it's all TJs here. You got TJ Streamer City, are the names that come up with respect to the Kevin Durant injury. Patrick Williams is the name that comes up from the DeMar DeRozan quad stuff. And then you can even expand that beyond to Trey Murphy, who had been very quiet for New Orleans lately, but seemed to get a bit of his confidence back yesterday. There is no perfect answer to the question of what order you pick up all of these guys. There is a team fit element that has to go on. But what I will tell you here at the beginning of this podcast, before we again dive into the recap of yesterday, is that among all of the names on the streamer board right now, and there are a ton, especially if you put like the entire new starting lineup for the Phoenix Suns on there. Okongwu is one that, like I was saying, needs to be on every roster. And then beyond that, you're working fit. Personally, sort of like a vacuum type deal, of all of these most recent names, I probably put TJ McConnell near the top because his stat set is unique and weird. It's assists, it's some rebounds, actually. It's a lot of steals. He actually shoots a good field goal percent and typically a decent free throw percent, but he doesn't hit any three-pointers. It's a weird blend, no doubt. But it's also a very high floor for him because we kind of know that he's going to have to play like 25 or more minutes. And in that amount of time, we know already that he's going to be able to put up some fantasy value. Next on my list is probably Andrew Nembhard because he's already getting starters minutes, and now he's going to get a lot of ball handling duty with Haliburton out. And we saw what he was able to do when there were no point guards. Now he'll share it with McConnell a little bit. But we also know that there's some upside with him when he's actually going to initiate, get assists, take more shots. That's much more fun. Behind those two guys, I probably would go Patrick Williams. I know he had a quiet ball game yesterday, so you can beat me up about it if you want, but we've seen that when he gets a few extra looks, when a high-usage guy is out on the Bulls, he puts up good numbers. And then the Kevin Durant fill-in stuff, because I think it's going to be a little bit weirder there, where you're going to see Royce O'Neal get a bump. I think he'd be startable here, but how far up the board, it's not going to be this like massive flying leap. TJ Warren's going to be interesting, but they've already talked about how they don't want to overuse him because he's still kind of working his way back from the toe and foot injury stuff over the last 2 years. And you can kind of blend a lot of those guys in together, like the TJ Warren, Royce O'Neal, Patrick Williams, even. You can probably blend in with Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon. And honestly, I think I'd probably have Slow-Mo a little bit above those guys and Trey Murphy a little bit above those guys as well. But let's segue now into actually everything that happened yesterday. We'll do a little box score work, and we'll start at the top and just kind of work our way through it from there. Washington beat Chicago without all of their guys, basically. And this is a really rough loss for the Bulls. I know they didn't have DeMar DeRozan, but there's just absolutely no excuse for losing to the Wizards. They didn't get any free throws without DeMar. The Bulls took 9 total free throws in this ball game. And that was basically the difference in the contest because almost everything else was exactly the same between the two teams, other than Denny Avdia having a monster rebounding game. But you guys don't care about the reality side of it. You guys care about the fantasy side. I still like Patrick Williams. I know he only had 6 and a block in this ball game. That's not great. But I think the Bulls also saw that just having Zach LaVine take every single shot is good for Zach LaVine, but not that great for the Bulls at large. So I still like Patrick Williams. I still like the minutes. I think that 8 shots very easily trends back up to 10 or 11. Alex Caruso is someone to keep an eye on. Again, with the usage bump, and he took 11 shots. You roll that in with typically a ton of steals, defensive stats for him, and he becomes someone that we should at least keep one eye on while DeRozan is out. No, I'm not adding Kobe White. I know he had 13 points and 3 3-pointers, but the steals are weird for him, and he really doesn't do anything besides score. On the Wizards sides, it feels like Gafford and Porzingis could very well be back for their next ball game, so I don't think I would go kind of deep dive on Washington. Like, I'm not going to pick up Taj Gibson in advance of their next ball game, even though he probably does kind of teeter on fantasy value as the lone starting center left. They rolled Anthony Gill, small ball 5, and it didn't burn him too much. But, I mean, Avdia is the story here. 9 points, 20 rebounds. Confidence-wise, I still don't know if he quite has it back, but it's hard to ignore a 20-burger in the rebounding department. So if we find out that Porzingis and Gafford have to miss another ball game, then you go Avdia. Otherwise, I don't think I'm going to take that plunge. And we got word about 10 minutes ago that Bradley Beal did participate in basketball activities, so he could be back in the next couple of ball games, which frankly feels kind of too soon to me, but whatever. You want to talk about bad losses? Detroit blew out the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yeah, you heard that right. A team that's actually trying to compete for a playoff spot. Minnesota lost again. They're 2 games under 500, which is not good. Blazers are 2 games under 500 as well. I honestly can't believe, like, the Jazz, the Wolves, the Blazers are all right now tied for the last, it's a 3-way tie for the last play-in spot. The Warriors and Suns are only a half game up, and the Lakers are only a half game back. What an insane cluster mess that is going on out in the Western Conference. But for Minnesota, Kyle Anderson was a late scratch, and I mean, could he have really meant that much to what they're doing right now? I guess the answer is yeah. I'm hoping that Slow-Mo's back for the next ball game. I am holding on to him because his lines lately have been terrific, especially if you're punting points. No, you're not adding Austin Rivers. He was in there because Slow-Mo was out, but I mean, this is still Austin Rivers. And on the Detroit side, no Duren and no Stewart. The Duren stuff is weird because, like, it seemed like he was relatively close earlier this week, and then he's getting ruled out way in advance. If you had kind of a dead roster slot, which is hard to say right now because there's so many streamers, that's what makes Nerlens Noel so very hard to add at the moment. As much as I love Nerlens, and you guys know I'm a noted Nerlensophile, I have been for a very long time. I only wish his body would have kind of held up. It's hard to pick him up right now because there are streamers like Nemhard and McConnell and Williams and Warren and O'Neal and Okongwu and Slow-Mo and all these guys where you're like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get like at least a week out of most of these dudes. And with Nerlens, if you're adding him, you're leaving all of those guys on the wire and you're saying, I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to use this guy in a games cap format in his next ball game. And heaven forbid, Duren comes back. I don't even know if Noel really plays in their next ball game. That's a hard ad to make when a lot of leagues are, overnight waivers or add a day in advance. Nerlens is probably someone that you have to go with kind of as a last second head-to-head grab because the alternative is you end up missing out on a bunch of other guys and maybe not get to use him anyway. Saddiq Bey is interesting. I wasn't sure if he would continue to have enough to do when Bojan Bogdanovic came back. And obviously the competition level helped in this ball game. Minnesota allowed Detroit to shoot 60% for the game. That's not good defensively. You have Rudy Gobert. What are you doing? Like, funnel people to him. At the very least, I don't know, man. Minnesota, that offseason trade, I know Cat's been out for a while, so it's hard to kind of grade them at the moment, and Cat is the centerpiece of a lot of what they do on offense. But, boy, I know they played a tiny bit better prior to last couple, so I'll leave them alone for now. As far as Detroit fantasy stuff goes, I mean, this is like the what if everything goes right ball game. So you have to grade everybody out based on this being the best game you get from them over the next like 5 weeks. So, good for Jaden Ivey, but you're going to be fighting with your percentages. Great for Killian Hayes, but you're going to be fighting with percentages and turnovers and stuff like that. And so just like grain of salt is basically the message on the Detroit side, other than Sadiq Bey, who I think, again, like Noel, probably makes more sense on the head-to-head side because you might add him and then not get to use him at all. But he is going to go and take a bunch of shots. And then you just kind of have to hope that it's not one of those like 5 for 20 shooting games because that would sink you. We've talked about the Pacers plenty at this point. This was just an example, this ball game, the Pacers losing to New York. And they're going to lose a few games now without Tyrese Haliburton. They're just like they're everything that they do is built around Haliburton. They're 4 games over 500, but they won't be when Haliburton comes back. I feel pretty confident in that one. But you saw it here. Nembhard played 34 minutes. Haliburton played a lot of this ball game before he went down, so we didn't get a full flavor. I think he probably would have played like another maybe 10-ish minutes, and it's probably fair to say that most of those 10 minutes ended up with TJ McConnell. Because Nembhard is playing starters minutes regardless, but it is going to, and Nembhard had 5 fouls as well, but it is going to come down more. This is a discussion we had, I think, on yesterday's podcast. It's about usage. Nembhard's usage is going to go up. McConnell's usage is generally pretty high when he's on the floor. So for him, it's more about minutes going up. Hield's usage is already pretty high. It can't go that much higher, but it'll tick up a little bit. You'll see Miles Turner come back, and he'll have certainly more usage than any center we saw in this ball game. James Johnson played 13 minutes, for heaven's sake. Goga saw 15. Haliburton being out helps a lot of people, but actually hurts others because of what he does to get people open also. Benedict Mathurin will probably get more shots, but that's all he does anyway. But this is just a little example of what that might look like as kind of like a partial game piece of news. On the Knicks side, RJ Barrett came back and played a Tom Thibodeau-esque 41 minutes, and he looked fine. Didn't shoot the ball all that well, but that's sort of the RJ Barrett way. Emmanuel quickly back to the bench. He played 26 minutes. That ain't enough for him, unfortunately. He needs full starters minutes to get there, especially when you consider the fact that even if his usage does tick up in the bench unit, there's just so many guys in front of him right now. And this is a game where Julius Randle didn't actually do all that much on offense. So sorry, Emmanuel, quickly. It was a fun ride, but it comes to an end here. I got a bunch of questions on Twitter. This surprised me actually a lot. Should I hold on to Quentin Grimes? Absolutely. He was good before RJ Barrett went down. It didn't really change for him when other guys are in or out of the starting lineup. He's just a lowish usage dude who might be kind of built in that same sort of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope situation where he might be better as the Knicks have better players around him. And that's not to take anything away from Emmanuel quickly. It does actually take a little bit away from Miles McBride. Sorry, Miles McBride. I don't know. I couldn't pick you out of a lineup. But for Grimes, he's going to get good looks with Brunson and Randall and Barrett around him. These are guys that just draw attention, whether they deserve it or not, on certain days. So, yeah, absolutely hold on to Grimes. He's a rest of season guy, which puts him a level above most of these streamers, at least for 12-teamers and deeper. I'm going to pause the recorded side to remind everybody that's watching live to please take a moment to click that like button. And a lot of you have done it so far. I don't know if it's just like habit now, but awesome. You guys are doing great on the clicking of the thumbs up button. What I'll also ask you to do is subscribe to the YouTube page. Just popping in the middle here to remind everybody to subscribe to the YouTube page. I am also, let's see if we can get that likes. I think there's like 30 some odd of them right now. That's pretty cool right now. I also want to give you guys the sponsor link for our buddies over at expressvpn.com. I'm going to throw that in the chat and then just have it pop up on the screen for everybody. So that's where you can go right now. They're running a deal with our special link where you can get 15 months for the price of 12 over at expressvpn.com/hoopball. I know it's our old name. Sorry. That's what we got. We are not with Manscaped for about the next 2 or 3 months. So if you're going to buy something over there, don't do it. Hold off. Wait till we get our coupon code rolling again. And we also do still have the coupon code going at Thrive Fantasy. That code is Ethos. And we actually have a code over at MyBookie these days also. MyBookie, the code is Ethos. Both of those places, it's a deposit match bonus. Thrive is prop bet DFS lineups, and MyBookie is traditional sports betting. So check out some of our partners. And that there, of course, is expressvpn.com/hoopball. Again, I'll just throw this up there for those that are reading and not listening. Please do like and subscribe. See if we can get over 40 here while the show is still going. That would be pretty awesome. It also occurs to me that my Twitter handle disappears from the screen when I go into this, like, my face. Oh, no, there it is. It's down there. It's just really hard to read. So let me throw that up a tiny bit bigger. It's at Dan Vespers on Twitter. If you guys want to follow me over there, it is actually like really important that you do because we do a crap ton of stuff over on social media. And I feel pretty confident that at least some of you watching don't follow me right now. So please do check it out. Go over to Twitter and let's dive again, like and subscribe, and let's dive back into our game recap situation. Got to turn on the recording software again. All right, moving right along. Boston beat New Orleans 125-114. CJ McCollum is going crazy these days. I don't know what happened to my voice right there. It was like I forgot how to speak for just a brief moment. McCollum is number 48 in 9-cat right now, and he'll continue to likely trend up as long as Brandon Ingram and Zion are out. It pays to be the last man standing, effectively. As I said on yesterday's podcast, the Celtics were just going to destroy Jonas Valanciunas on the defensive side, and that forced the Pelicans to go to smaller lineups. Larry Nance played 20 minutes. That wasn't very good, actually. They rolled Jackson Hayes for 18. There was just no real solution. Thoughts on the New Orleans side, which I think is kind of complicated right now. Trey Murphy, get him fired back up again. Really nice to see his confidence come back a little bit in this ball game. I would actually like to see him shoot more. But that would require Najee Marshall to stop chucking a little bit, who had a decent ball game of his own. I don't want to take anything away from Najee. Typically a little more points league friendly because he doesn't get defensive stats. His percentages are generally not all that great, specifically field goal percent, but he got enough rebounds and assists and a block in this game to kind of paint over that. But Najee typically, again, more a points league option than 9-cat. Trey Murphy is better on the 9-cat side than he is on the points league side. And I think we can unfortunately leave Larry Nance alone. I still don't believe that he's fully healthy. We know what he looks like when he's healthy, and he doesn't look like that right now. And maybe I'm a little too conspiracy theorist here on Nance, but just leave him alone until he starts to look like himself again, basically. As far as Boston goes, Time Lord sat this one out, and then Horford will probably sit out the other half of the back-to-back. So now they got interchangeable centers. So maybe not the greatest game to grade Horford on, but he looked really good. Field goal percent was back up again. 4 3-pointers, 3 boards, 4 assists, a steal, a block. I mean, please stop complaining about Al Horford. He's number 70 on a per-game basis. He's been totally fine all year long. He'll sit these back-to-backs out. We knew we were getting into that on the Roto side. Better in Roto than head-to-head. So just roll with it. Really excited to see what Robert Williams does tonight. Maybe they give him like 25. Ooh, what if he got up to 25 minutes? That'd be juicy as hell, man. Woo, boy, would that be juicy as hell. As far as Marcus Smart fill-in stuff goes on the Celtics side, as I said on the podcast yesterday, I figured even though Grant Williams popped off in the first Marcus Smart fill-in game, the safer plays are Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon, and those two guys each had much better ball games here. I know White didn't score very much, but 4 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, a block, and a 3-pointer. That's good. That's very slow-mo-esque of White. And then Brogdon did the more Brogdon-y type of line, which is a lot of points. Not a ton of other stuff, but he did on good percentages. Did get 2 steals, which was somewhat surprising. And I would actually feel relatively comfortable starting both of those guys, as I mentioned kind of towards the outset of the show. Not a lot out of the Milwaukee-Atlanta game. Grayson Allen turned an ankle, but I don't have the stones to recommend a Javon Carter pickup. Pat Connaughton is your very slow, plodding, schedule stream level guy. Brooke Lopez continues to astound and amaze as the number 11 totals player in fantasy this year and number 22 by averages. On the Atlanta side, Trae Young sat this one out with an ailment. He'll be fine. He practiced already today, so he'll be back for the next ball game. So don't read too much into the boatload of extra shots that Bogdanovic got in yesterday's ball game. Everything else stays the same for Atlanta. Everything stays the same for Memphis. Not everything stays the same for San Antonio, who got Keldon Johnson back, and he didn't shoot the ball well from the field, but he did go 11 of 12 at the free throw line. And I know that this season has generally been a complete disaster for Keldon, but skipping the injury stuff, the last 5 or 6 ball games for him have actually been significantly better. And we will take that because he's right around the edge of the top 100 over that stretch, mostly due to a lack of anything besides scoring. But at least he's not hurting you right now. And that makes him startable. And him coming back makes a lot of other guys not startable. Can't trust Jeremy Sohan, not enough usage. Can't trust Romeo Langford. Can't trust Malachi Branham. Can't trust Josh Richardson, even though he has the best fantasy game of all of those fill-in guys. Just not enough time on the floor now with Johnson back. Can't trust Doug McDermott. And unfortunately, despite having a good ball game, you can't really trust Zach Collins either. He's going to back up Jakob Poeltl. He's going to play about 20 minutes a ball game, but consistently, this is the good line, and he'll have these mixed in with ones where there are kind of disappearing acts, especially when you consider the fact that Poeltl is looking a lot better these days. He's another guy who kind of got off to a slower start this year, but he's top 50 over the last couple of weeks, mostly because the blocks have come around. What you do want to watch out for is, does Poeltl get moved at the trade deadline? Because if so, Zach Collins is one of those guys you could squat on. I don't know if I would do it now. We're still 4 weeks away today from the trade deadline. But he's a guy that could really see a nice positive bump in minutes and numbers after February 9th. Denver beat Phoenix. This one had blowout written all over it. Suns in altitude on the back-to-back. Everybody's still out after a win in Golden State. This is about as exhausted as players get in the NBA. It's the altitude back-to-back off a late-night West Coast game that requires travel. So it was like a 2-hour flight through the middle of the night into a spot where you can't breathe, and you don't have anybody on your bench to use. So worst-case scenario. I did say on yesterday's show that if there was any Sun I might trust in this ball game, it would have been Torrey Craig, behind Mikal Bridges, who had a bad ball game. But as far as the fill-in guys goes, I said at least with Craig, like, you're going to get some rebounds. You'll probably get a defensive stat, which he didn't. And he hung in there. And my second choice, I said if Ayton sits out, Dario Saric is probably the other guy I would consider. And those two guys had the we survived games for a team that put up 97 points. Let's just keep an eye on Phoenix. I'm not recommending a pickup on any of these guys because none of them has a decent ceiling, especially when you consider the fact that there are like 20 other possible streamers you can play right now. Jamal Murray turned an ankle, but his team was up by 40, so it sounds like he's going to be trying to play in their next ball game. We'll see if that actually does come to fruition, but it doesn't sound serious. That's the important part. No, you're not picking up bones. KCP continues to stay above the cut line. That's the feeling I've had on that throughout. No notes. This is a no notes kind of situation. And the last game from yesterday, Sacramento whipped up on the hapless Rockets, who did lose Kevin Porter Jr. early in this ball game. Kenyon Martin Jr., KJ Martin, started the second half for Houston. That, I think, is an important note on this ball game. KJ Martin got the start in the second half, and presumably, if Porter has to miss any time, KJ Martin would get a start going forward. So keep one eye on the Rockets. Again, KJ not as interesting as most of the other streamer pickups right now, but it's another option. It's another of, 40 options these days. And on the Sacramento side, we're keeping an eye basically on Keegan Murray's rebounding. And he got 6 of them in this ball game, which in my estimation is enough to justify starting him. But can he keep it going? That's what I don't know for certain. He did for a couple games and then he didn't. I feel like with Murray, he is at the very least getting closer to that consistent starter. Because over the last 2 weeks, he's at 4 rebounds, and that's actually been enough to get him inside the top 75 range. 3 3-pointers also doesn't hurt his cause. But he's a guy that isn't an injury fill-in, so we have to be, I think, a little bit more deliberate in what we do with Keegan Murray. He's more valuable, potentially more valuable than some of these injury replacements because he's a guy you could use throughout the season. So, what do we do with that information? He's probably, I don't even really know. Is Keegan Murray a guy who's on waivers all that much? I feel like he's probably rostered in most leagues, 69% on Yahoo. I think he's probably a pickup at this point. We're starting to see some of that stuff come around a little bit. But if you don't get him, it's not going to be a really big deal. Maybe we can leave it at that. It's not going to change your life if this is him figuring it out and like coasts along in the top 100 range. You're also not picking up Trey Lyles. It was very useful for my 30-team league where I had to start him because of the Kevin Durant injury. Oh, the drop-off when someone gets hurt in a 30-team league. But I got a great game out of Lyles, so I'll take it. And that's the recap on yesterday, everybody. Let's take a look at what's coming up tomorrow very quickly. Or not tomorrow. What the hell am I talking about? Tonight. It's a 6-game Thursday. We actually have some games on the docket. Oklahoma City is in Philadelphia. Not a whole lot to pay attention to on OKC. We got our answer on Kenrich Williams, which is, I don't think you can really trust it. Philly, don't panic on DeAnthony Melton. Give him some time to figure it out, please. And don't ask after every ball game because I'm going to give you the same answer. Unless he's terrible for like the next 2 weeks in a row, I'm not moving him. Charlotte, I think we have a pretty good idea of what they are now. Dennis Smith Jr. seems to have settled into about 24 minutes per game, which is not enough to start every day, but very much enough if you need steals. Toronto, nothing. Boston, pretty much nothing. I think we know what to do here with Marcus Smart, likely sideline. Brooklyn is very much a team we want to pay attention to. This is a watch close. Who gets the minutes for Kevin Durant? Who gets the touches for Kevin Durant? Is there any consistency? This is a big one. Don't tune me out right now. It's going to probably be someone different most nights. So you're going to see this ball game, Brooklyn and Boston. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And let's say that Seth Curry has a big one. He's going to get picked up in a bunch of leagues. But in the next one, it could be Joe Harris. And then after that, it could be TJ Warren. And then it could be Royce O'Neal. I think because Royce O'Neal is going to see huge minutes, and we saw his assists tick up when Kyrie Irving was out. It probably also happens here with Kevin Durant out. He's the more safe play in that bunch. But then among the quote-unquote guys who need to score to be fantasy relevant, Warren, Curry, Harris, you can even throw Watanabe in there, although he can do it with other stuff besides scoring. Do we see a measure of consistency? And then what do you do with the info as it comes in? Because we're only going to have this 1-game sample to work off. Let's say Seth Curry has a big ball game. Do we pick him up and then just sit on him for 1 or 2 games to see if he can keep this going? There are a lot of questions around Brooklyn coming up tonight. Milwaukee, Chris Middleton's been ruled out, but we did get good news on Middleton. Folks that are covering the Bucks, in addition to Shams, have talked about how he is getting close, that he's been basically a full participant in practice or very close to it. Like they said he basically had like what a G League practice would be. So there's a chance we might see Middleton as early as this weekend. I would think next week we will have Middleton on the court again, but I think they're going to be a little bit careful. Still, it's good news. For Miami, I believe Kyle Lowry's already been ruled out. What I don't remember, and I can try to look it up really fast here, but it'll make for a very bad podcast, is whether or not Hero is out. I think he is still out. And I believe Adebayo is expected to play in this ball game. So that wipes out any big man stream for Miami. By the way, Chris Middleton, as we're talking right now, just got assigned to the G League. So now we really know that he's getting close. Live on air. Breaking news, Chris Middleton getting closer. The Heat backcourt is interesting because Butler's going to be in, and then Bam's in. So those are going to be the guys that see the two biggest usage in the ball game. They don't have bumps. That makes me worried to use a guy like Max Strus because he needs a ton of shots. And it makes me a bit worried to use a guy like Gabe Vincent also. But I think I would play Oladipo. I don't know that I would go any farther than that. I think Bam coming back takes so much of the offense back from those replacement guys that it's very reasonable. It's quite possible that some of them do have good ball games. I just don't feel confident in saying which of those someones it'll be. Dallas and LA, not a whole lot to pick through there. I think we pretty much know who's going to play on both sides. You guys know my feelings on Dennis Schroeder. He's, I think, more of a points league guy when LeBron is in. And then Cleveland, Portland, not really a whole lot to go through there either. Ricky Rubio is expected to make his season debut, but I'm not going to really do anything about it. He'll probably have really high usage in like 12 minutes in this ball game, and everybody's going to go, oh my God! But then we're all going to remember that he's behind Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and Karis LeVert. And unfortunately, that just ain't enough. And then with Portland, we haven't really had anything change since Lillard came back. So nothing to keep an eye on in that one tonight either. And that is your Thursday podcast. Tomorrow on Fantasy NBA Today will be our delightful week in review. Fridays are always a lot of fun. We got these big lists of ads and drops and streams and holds and watch list guys, and I'll get some buys and sells. And here I am crossing my fingers that finally the Terry Rozier 6 weeks in a row buy recommendation may finally start to pay off. Will it? We don't know, but we hope. I am at Dan Bespris. I am also just Dan Bespris. Sometimes I exist without an @ symbol at the front of my name. Please do follow me on Twitter. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation. Thank you, one and all, for making this show so damn successful over the years. We're just going to continue to grow it. Please, whatever you can do to help spread the word, whatever that might be, whether it's a like on Twitter or a retweet or telling a friend or posting it on Facebook, whatever you can do, I am eternally grateful. Thank you to ExpressVPN. Thank you to Thrive. And thank you to MyBookie for their partnerships here on Fantasy NBA Today right now. Have a delightful Thursday, everybody. We will talk at you tomorrow. And to the live viewers, you know what time it is now. Maybe you don't, if some of you are tuning in for the first time. It is Q&A lightning round. But I need one thing from you. I need to get our 38 likes on this video to 40. I need to see 2 more likes from the live studio audience here, and then I'll start doing the questions in the YouTube chat room. Yeah, I'm bribing you. There's 39. I only need 1 more. Oh, there you go. See, I knew you guys were ready. For everybody that's tuning in, throw your questions in the chat room right now. We're going to speed through these things as fast as humanly possible. Also, do follow me on Twitter, at Dan Bespris. That goes for you guys on YouTube as well. What do we got here? Gobert or Claxton? Can you believe that's a question that needs to be asked right now? Wow. And it's a legitimate one. It's not a bad question. Claxton's been better than Rudy. But I think the question you're really asking yourself is, because they're both bad foul shooters, Claxton worse, is do you want the extra block from Claxton or do you want the extra 4 rebounds from Gobert? Because at the end of the day, they're probably both going to settle in that 40 range. Total coin flip. If rebounds are more important, you go Rudy. Blocks are more important, you go Gobert. Brandon, I know, man. Brandon Marcus, the unbelievably strong host, terrific host of our longtime successful Clippers podcast. I don't know if Matt, is Matt around here? Matt Warren? I don't know. If you're in the live chat, Matt, pop up and say hi. Matt, added as a co-host this year, has been terrific. He's also come up with these Weird Al songs based on fantasy basketball. Chef's kiss. Clippers coverage for those guys has been terrific. JP, what up, man? Who are we stashing in an 18-teamer? Holy crap. Cam is probably back first for whatever that's worth. Vassell third, Oubre probably second. I think I would stash them in terms of when we think they're coming back. It's tough, though. If you don't have an IL slot, I don't know that you can stash any of them unless you're comfortably in playoff position. You guys know the answer to these questions before you even ask it. You have to be in playoff position. 8-cat, games cap, roto. Yeah, I think I'd go Nemhard here because Schroeder is tough to use in 8-cat roto. You're basically just waiting for the games where LeBron rests. Yo! I know there's more. Oh, man. Oh, that's up at this Brandon. Yeah, I don't know. I think you can hold on to Slow-Mo because he had a cold. He'll be back. Duran is a question mark. I'd love to get a little more clarity on Duran because he's more of like a 100 range, rebounds, but doesn't get defensive stats kind of big man. It wouldn't help him. Olynyk's not going to a place where he's going to get 35 center minutes. If Olynyk gets traded, he probably ends up being a drop wherever he goes. I don't know for sure, but I really think so. Yeah, these are good thoughts, by the way. Good work in the chat room. Thanks for chatting it up, guys. Yeah. Yes, I would hold on to Isaac over TJ McConnell in Roto. Although, admittedly, the place I picked up Jonathan Isaac, the place that I jumped on him was a keeper league, where if it works, I could potentially hold him for like a 15th round pick next year. In a traditional Roto league, I mean, I guess it depends on how you're doing against the games cap. If there's no issue, then yeah, you hold on to the guy that has the crazy, crazy, crazy upside with a low chance of hitting because you don't need to make up games. If you need to make up some games, McConnell would be a great way to do it. What's up, dude? Love it. Thanks for joining us for a first time. Appreciate what you're saying there. We really don't know. There's been almost no update of any kind. My guess would be weeks and not days, but I really don't know. Dynasty League. I'm not a big Dynasty guy. Can I throw you, Brady, to our buddy Rhett Bauer? He's awesome. Rhett, RHETT_BAUER on Twitter. In my estimation, this is something you do if you're trying to win this year. Because, you could catch lightning in a bottle with your first round pick of somebody that maybe gets big. And then if Keegan Murray, like if the Kings eventually don't have Harrison Barnes blocking him at power forward and he can slide up a slot defensively, that's where Keegan Murray could grab more rebounds and get more usage. And that's how he moves into that like 60, 75 range. And for Levine, this is as good as it gets, 40 range. So I think I'd go, unless you're trying to win this year really hard, I think I'd probably hold on to what you have, but I would also talk to someone who plays a bit more dynasty. Yeah, add him to the injury list. Ingram's in there too, man. I don't know what the hell that dude is. Yes, I would go Nemhard over DeAndre Hunter. Miles Turner and CP3 for JJJ and Jordan Poole. No, I'm holding Turner and CP3 in this one. Yeah, crutches. Although sometimes guys leave on crutches because the doctor's just like, we don't know what this is. Don't put any weight on it yet. So don't totally panic. Wouldn't call him a sleeper. I talked about him. Yeah, that's fine. McConnell over Pat Williams is fine with me. D'Lo and Vassell for Brolo and Şengün. Yeah, I'll go Brook Lopez side in this one because Vassell's out forever and D'Lo's going to lose value when Cat comes back. Give me Brook. Yep, Jay agrees with me. Ricky Rubio, 18 teamers. Okay, well, this is a little more interesting. 12 teamers, I don't think Rubio gets close. 18 teamers, head to head. No, don't do it, man. He's not going to play in any back-to-backs. It's going to be a really slow ramp up. It's going to be a bigger headache than it's worth. Just trust me on this one. Look up the Cavs schedule. I don't know how many back-to-backs they have down the stretch or in their playoffs, but I'm betting it's at least one. And if he's like barely an 18 teamer, if he's playing in every ball game, then he's not one if he's skipping a game a week. Neb or TJ? I know that's Nemhard, but I'm going to call him Nebhart for a moment. I'll go TJ just by a hair. I like them both. Yeah, I'm okay with getting ahead of the Rocco thing. My guess is that he doesn't get them when Paul George is back. But like I said in yesterday's podcast, he's so the per minute stuff is so interesting with Covington that I can't fault you on this one. I really can't. Schroeder for Nemhard. Yes, we already answered that one. Torian Prince, slow-mo, Nemhard, McConnell. I'll go McConnell, slow-mo, Nemhard, Prince is at the bottom. But I also love the McConnell slow-mo, basically, which is effectively like a punt points type of build. I just love their floor, too. They have great floor. When you get assists, rebounds, steals, sometimes blocks on both percentages, and slow-mo has even hit a couple of three-pointers lately. There's just, the bottom can't fall out in a stat set like that. Drop Kyle Anderson, Jalen McDaniel. It's probably Jalen, but I don't know. The Hornets are being super cryptic about the Gordon Hayward thing right now. When Hayward comes back, McDaniels definitely falls below slow-mo in value. But then we also are expecting Cat back in like the next 2 to 3 weeks. So this to me comes down to who comes back first, Gordon Hayward or Karl Anthony Towns. And I honestly don't know right now. Between the two of them at this moment, I prefer McDaniels. Sounds like he's going to try to play in their next ball game. Even if he doesn't play in the next one, my guess is he wouldn't miss more than a game because it sounds very mild. You are welcome, dude. You are welcome. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to grind the best I can. Do I only do basketball? Yes, I only do basketball. My brain needs a respite come April 10th or whenever that thing chills out. And plus, we do a lot of work. You guys don't know this, and I don't talk about it very much, but I am also the assistant GM at Sports Ethos. I work with Aaron Bruschi and Steve Vidovich pretty much daily on everything that's going on for the website. And the off season is a time for me to not spend like 6 hours a day on hoop stuff. And instead, we can focus on what we want to do with the website. If you hit me up on Twitter at Dan Vespris, there, I'll put that back up there. I can give you our in-house recommendations for football and baseball and hockey. So, David, if you're watching now or watching later, anybody, frankly, happy to give you guys the names of our awesome baseball, hockey, and football guys that can get you through those other sports. Would I give up Turner and Ayton for Evan Mobley in an 18-team 9-keeper? No, I wouldn't. But I'm also someone who thinks that Mobley tops out like close to where Miles Turner is currently or ever so slightly lower until he becomes a full-time center. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen in Cleveland because they're kind of building around Mobley and Jarrett Allen. And you can see how much better Mobley gets when Allen has to miss a game. He was amazing in the last one when Allen had to leave after 5 or 6 minutes. But I don't know how many years down the line it could be before he's a full-time center, if at all. And that's the thing that holds him back. That's when he's a full-time center, he's like top 30, top 40. When he's a power forward, he's more like 60 to 80 range. So I think I'd rather have Miles Turner because his fantasy game translates no matter where he goes. And then DeAndre Ayton, same thing. His foul shooting has fallen off a bit recently. Where do we think he ends up at the end of the season? Are we talking just foul shooting or overall? I mean, he's still far and away the best impact free throw shooter in the NBA, even though there has been a little bit of a drop off there. But yes, he's dropped. He's number 6 now per game in 9-cat. He's number 16 over the last month. And I think second round the rest of the way is a pretty reasonable target for him. Hey, by the way, those of you that are dropping in and throwing a bunch of questions in there, you guys can also hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the YouTube page. Just saying. And also Twitter at Dan Vespris. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Is Bol Bol a pickup in a 16-teamer? If you see him play in Orlando's next ball game, the answer is yes. Yeah, this is a draft board from COVID 2020. We did an online expert draft, but no one could get in any rooms together. Not that we were going to anyway, but I felt like it was like a very COVID thing. So we did a Zoom expert draft. And the good people at I don't know if I can get this into the picture, but I can move the board around. FJ Fantasy. Oh, I screwed it up. Now it's going to fall on my head. The good people at FJ Fantasy did this board while we were doing the draft. And then they sent it to me. And now you guys don't get to see my bedroom. In Roto Games Cap, yes. And head-to-head, no. Thanks, man. McConnell. You're welcome. No. Hold on, Lowry. I got to go do the rest of my work so I can pick up my kid on time. Thank you, everybody. This was probably the most questions we've had so far. Super cool. And I'm going to try to do this again tomorrow, although I don't know if we're going to be able to do the big... Oh, we got one last one that snuck in here. I don't know if we're going to be able to do the big Q&A at the end on tomorrow's show because the weekend review pod does take the longest. And I got to save my voice a little bit. Yes, the answer is yes. Scotty Barnes is not taking a big leap forward. He's best case scenario, I think, is where he gets to last year. The question is, do the Raps blow it up? They've won 2 games in a row against bad competition. They are not in the playoffs right now, and they are not, unless they're kidding themselves, a championship contender. So that's something that's hanging in the balance on the Toronto side. And that's why you probably hold on to Scotty Barnes through the trade deadline. Because if they move some guys, that changes things quite a bit. Thank you again, everybody. I'm going to try to do these earlier if I can. It seems like the viewership and the listenership is better if we go earlier in the day. Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for the new subscribes. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. Of course, this show will continue to go out on traditional podcast channels as well. So long for now, everybody. I'll see you over on Twitter. Seriously, don't screw around. Go follow. We'll talk over there. Later.